Part of any learning process is to heed our failures and avoid repeating them. As a child, I recall lifting a bar of soap from the bathwater, plump and glistening, and the satisfying sensation as I sank my teeth into it. I haven't eaten soap for some years now, but I'm not always such a fast learner. Sitting at the roadside in the company of disabled motorcycles, I still believe it'll be fine next time, once I've made some repairs. Perhaps you remember the ride we took together last autumn, the delight followed by puzzlement as I stopped for fuel, and the shame of being trailered home. Repairs are covered in the video Little Red in Trouble. The 250 Panther spent last winter sheeted up, the preserve of shed spiders. Now it's time to demonstrate my trust in that spanner work, riding out for the Vintage and Classic Motorcycle Club South Links section's longest day run. Approaching the pumps again, can I find any reassurance in that completely non-scientific thought, lightning never strikes the same place twice? "90 minutes. That's the ride in real time. Practically a feature-length film. If you are impatient for a denouement, leapfrog to the last frame and discover whether we reach our lunch stop and the refreshments on offer, or merely wash up at a random intermediate destination. It's mid-June, and temperatures are predicted to reach 31 degrees centigrade, 88 Fahrenheit, by afternoon. As riders fire up at the start, I tell run co-organisers Barry and Peter that I will ride alone. At 250 cc's capacity and of 1939 manufacture, the Red Panther is the oldest and the least powerful machine here, and I expect their lead to extend as we ride. I enjoy the challenge of finding my way with just the tulip route sheet in my handlebar roller. Still hot from a ride to the start, the engine takes a few kicks, despite its carburettor insulating gasket. Leading bikes clear the first junction as I fix the first couple of directions in my head. Both are right turns at T's, so hard to miss. mile or two outside the Lincolnshire town of Bourne, we purr below that massive fenland sky, azure blue ablaze with lens flare. I'm comfortable in t-shirt under leather jacket and sliding down the road-proof Kevlar jeans. Already 20 or 30 miles into my personal riding vibe, I'm fully disconnected from day-to-day concerns, save survival, mine and the Panthers. Riding to the start, neutral was unusually hard to track down at a traffic light, the clutch dragging slightly. After signing on, I adjusted out slack with the knurled cable stop and its locking nut. In fourth gear now, I open the throttle wider, and a rise in revs not properly indexed to an increase in speed demonstrates that minor clutch slip has now been added to the Panther's repertoire of malfunction. And yes, disengaged it still drags. But there's no slip at 40 miles an hour, a speed well suited to my mood, these roads and the day, wafted over the flatlands by a light tailwind. We'll see how things are later when we turn into that breeze and tackle hillier country to the west. I tune in to the engine's steady beat, and there is little sound or sensation to set a mechanic's nerves on edge, save for a very occasional misfire, maybe a spot of oil on the contact breaker points. A glance at my route sheet and the odometer for the next junction, 5 miles ahead. The magnetic instrument leaping along on my forks is India made and merely masquerading as Smith's chronometric. It has no trip and no tenths of mile indicator, so distances are approximate to the nearest mile. I called it temporary when I attached it 7 years ago. One day, perhaps, when it rains, I'm not tempted to go out riding, and there's nothing else to mend, I'll look at restoring the Smith's item fitted originally to this Deluxe Model 40. A series of sweeping bends breaks the comfortable monotony and wakes me from my reverie. I'm within a mile or two of the next redirect, a left turn on a right-hand bend. Sometimes there are clues to a junction which are not indicated on the sheet, such as the appearance of a cluster of houses. Five senses. Maybe one day computer boffins will add sensation to our media machines beyond sight and sound. But at present the picture and soundtrack are all I can offer. So I'll do my best to fill the gaps. Vibration through rubber grips on the 1-inch bars is slight and persistent. The tingle in your fingers of the rhythm of life from a 60mm piston reversing its travel above a gyrating conrod. 5 or 10,000 times each minute. The lightest touch here sets us up for a new bend, while girder forks transmit road irregularities through a single spring, with the most rudimentary friction damping. The lightweight web fork's central steering damper is little more than a mascot, the Bakelite knob nipped against its spring to prevent it rattling, slackening off and scattering component parts on the highway. My third contact point, the recovered Dunlop rubber saddle, has taken my shape commendably in the past 7 years, or I have taken its. It is possible that calluses have formed, but they are out of sight, and no one has yet been rude enough to mention them. The sharp, dry scent of tarmac and dust threads through wafts of hot hedgerow and verge and ripening wheat fields. I am bombarded with insects too, some fat and juicy, but protected by my face covering, I am unable to describe their taste. It's usually preferable to leave where they land those impacting the visor, rather than risk a careless wipe with a glove. This is the most northeasterly point of our ride. We swing left here towards a bank of wispy cloud, which hangs above rising ground to the west. Later it provides a small respite from the increasing heat of midday. Still out on the wild fen, we pass pumping stations raising water from drainage dyke to sea level. Robotic grapples lift weed and debris to keep the pumps clear. A little further on, a farmer pulls in to check his irrigation system. When we leave the flatlands and their arrow straight ways, the change is dramatic. From roads ruled by man-made drainage ditch and dike, the route twists, turns and rises into straggling villages, and the relaxed, freehand ways of upland folk. "5 miles since our last route square, we turn left, and I am caught for a moment by the little panther's gentle response to clutch and throttle. Unobserved by the camera, a couple of dabs sets things to rights without losing any points. Stay focused, it's less than a mile to the next turn. This is the village of Rippinggale, ill-named on this still warm day in June. No doubt the first settlers here had their reasons. Familiar major routes are insignificant when glimpsed at a crossing, like the A15 here between Peterborough and Lincoln. We pause only to glance right and left, finding no traffic in sight, and ride on. Time to advance the route again and update my mental mile counter. The Panther is in its element on these traffic-free roads, linking villages little changed since the 1940s, when this motorcycle was new. For a moment I find myself considering that simpler life which only exists in imagination. Me in a small cottage, with little Red tucked in a shed at the back. No slipping clutches, no punctured tyres, no need for oil changes. But like my wish that this ride will last forever, I know that I would soon be seeking greater excitements, bigger challenges. We cross the track of a new water pipeline being laid between Grantham and Peterborough to feed the thirsty south from the wetter north. Beyond its dusty scar, I pause in tree shade to change my camera's battery, the Panther ticking over for a couple of minutes without complaint. There is a red alert attached to the next instruction, loose gravel. I'm still adjusting the camera on its harness, and the tiny junction catches me unawares. I attack it in an inappropriate gear, and unwilling to change down on the loose stuff, find myself on a steepening incline, and one rough enough to set the rigid frame's centre stand clattering. In the end I do the right thing and drop a gear to end the torture. This single-track road takes us over the top to a left turn in the village of Ingoldsby. A right T at the B1176 to Grantham reminds me of the importance of keeping one step ahead of directions. This is merely a dogleg, and in half a mile, which the odometer drum doesn't even register, we turn west again towards Great Ponton. The cloud cover is thick enough now to provide respite from the noonday heat. A long climb brings us to a left turn towards the A1 trunk road. Clutch slip increases here, and I drop into third to give it a rest. This new behaviour deserves investigation, but not at the roadside. Please, not at the roadside. On the plus side, that occasional misfire does seem to have cured itself. We seem to be 2 directions amiss here, left turns unmarked. Missing the first will put us inescapably onto the A1 South. Fortunately, I remember the junction from a previous run, but in my delight I am wrong-footed by the mileage in the next box, thinking that I can relax for 4.3 miles. I spot the village hall sign too late, but a quick U-turn soon puts us back on the straight and narrow. It must have been 4.3 miles since that left turns 3 junctions back, not after crossing the A1. quick-fire redirects, a right at one crossroads followed by a straight on at the next, keep me on my toes. Now within a couple of villages of our destination, I begin to anticipate the cool of an old stone-built pub, a brimful glass, and the thrill of achievement. Between Skillington and Sproston, one with a noisy K, the other a silent X, the road runs straight as a crow flight, and we cross the county boundary between Lincolnshire and Leicestershire. I resist an urge to set spurs to the Red Panther, so close to our destination. Over the brow we plunge into the village and make one last dogleg to the Crown Inn, where riders in the vanguard are outside removing their jackets. Surely we only just missed a glimpse of them on that last long straight. BMW rider Malk guarantees my everlasting gratitude by going in to stand me a pint of Reverend James from the Cardiff Bay brewery of S.A. Brain & Co. And 7 of us, the perfect psychotherapeutic group, take a long table for lunch and compare notes on gravel washouts, the superiority of our chosen mount, and the 1,001 subjects which old friends may disagree on. Putting to rights the Red Panther's clutch issues can wait for another time, but I have one last observation to share. The tank was filled this morning, 2,926 miles on the clock. So to check consumption, all I have to do is call at the garage again on my way home and fill to the top. I squeeze in a measly 3.52 litres or 0.77 of a gallon, and the miles covered are 95, which I calculate is better than 120 miles per gallon, even allowing for error. At £4.99, that's what I call a cheap day return. Oil consumption, after just 100 miles, is less impressive though. I feel another strip down coming on.